Welcome everybody to Starrcade 2004, live from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania at the Wachovia Center in the city of brotherly love, as it's the final show of the year for WCW in 2004 here in TEW 2020. But before we get to the actual show, just a few little things on what's going to happen as far as things being, as far as the channel goes. So this week, right now Starrcade on Monday. Wednesday probably be another show, another New Japan show. And then on Friday, I'll either do a one-off of something interesting or try with another series, because next week will be the year-end review, and then 2005 will begin on the channel as per usual on the Monday after that. So I just want to go over that. But now let's go on to the actual show. So like I said, Starrcade, December 26, 2004, Philadelphia, Wachovia Center, which we're called now, a sold-out 18,000 plus crowd. So how does the show start? Well, the show itself starts with a pre-show match, as we have a pre-show battle royal, basically involving everybody on the roster who didn't have a match that basically would be upset or who I needed to make some space. So we got Dean Malenko, Ernest Miller, Evan Courageous, Fit Finlay, our TV champion Jason Jett, Kaz, Ken Anderson, Minoru Fujita, Paul London, Reckless Roberts, Ron Simmons, Shannon Moore, Sean Stasiak, Steve Carino, and Tajiri. But in the end, just your basic pre-show battle royal, where Kaz wins it after about 15 minutes. The other members of the Final Four were Ken Anderson getting a push as the final list. Ron Simmons got the final elimination, and Tajiri was the other member of the Final Four. Just a simple, pretty straightforward match here to make sure some people don't get too upset about being left on the card. And honestly, there's some people honestly, the only people I feel bad about not being on the card are Malenko, Jett, Kaz, London, because he was just pretty well pushed, and to a lesser extent Ron Simmons. But hopefully, those are some people who will be getting some more TV time now with the split and everything. But now, let's get going with the actual show. As we start out with an opening video, basically going over all the big matches. I forgot to look up a good song, but I'm sure there's some 2004 era rock, so that would work out well here. But yeah, just a big start. Basically focusing on what's sort of been organized as the big four matches, at least as far as the pay-per-view is concerned. The world title match, Goldberg, Monty Brown, Palumbo, O'Hare, and of course the women's triple threat match, because again, we're trying to push the women's division here with probably the biggest match of the division's career so far. But good show opening, announcers going over the card, and then they throw it to the ring for our opening match of the evening, which is the Ignition triple threat involving, of course, Austin Aries, Io Skipper, the current champion, Akira Hitaka, Jerry Lynn, Taka Michinoku, Tony Kazina, Yang, and Ritsu Sei, as is basically was announced over the weekend, like I put it went over in the preview. Chris Suzuki is the Emperor Booker, and Emperor has shows on Sunday, so he's basically I might have to end up releasing from his contract, because there's not much to do with him if he's going to be unavailable for pay-per-views. But regardless, and I don't want to sign him to a full contract. But anyway, regardless, this is a pure high spots match. This is because this is first fall gets the winner, wins the match. This is just everybody hitting high spots like wild. Austin Aries gets a little impressive. Skipper flies around, has some kicks in. Jerry Lynn lets to do some veteran presence in about the 11 matches that goes on. Kosina and Yang get to fly around a bit. Prince Osei tries to do some quick roll-ups and cradles, but gets knocked around. But eventually we have a quick dive train involving everybody. Hidaka gets thrown out to the top rope. Then Yang hits a plancha. Osei hits a dropkick from the top rope. Lynn hits a wild suicide dive. Austin Aries hits a plancha. Skipper hits a tope con hilo. And then Kozina hits a big plancha, but then Taka and Yang throw things off some wild, twisting planches to the outside. Eventually, everybody, is rolling to the outside. Things get more wild. I imagine, Jerry Lynn going for the cradle pile driver on somebody on the outside. But let's say going for the cradle pile driver on a Skipper, but Aries knocks him in the back of the head. Knocks Jerry Lynn in the back of the head with a savate kick. They start fighting back in the ring. Yang goes for a big moonsault on Prince Osei, but Osei rolls out of the way. But then Taka Michinoku throws Prince Osei in the ring. Yang turns around, gets nailed with the Michinoku driver, and right in the middle of the ring, pinfall, 1, 2, 3, another match, and your new WCW Cruiserweight champion, ending Skipper's long reign, even though Skipper did not get pinned, is Taka Michinoku. And yeah, overall, this match gets a 55. Not our best match, but honestly, a lot of these guys aren't super over yet, so need to be pushed. But yeah, just 55 overall. Aries gets a 45, which is impressive considering his lack of overness. Skipper gets a 59. Hidaka gets a 47. Wing gets a 53. Taka gets a 61. Kushina gets a 50. Yan gets a 46. And Prince Osei gets a 54. And afterwards, Taka celebrates with the title to a 40. Taka gets a big win here to open up Starrcade and wins the Ignition Cruiserweight match and is now the new Cruiserweight champion. They'll now be exclusive to Nitro. Now we go on to our next match. The next match on the card is the, of course, women's elimination match between what was supposed to be the bombshells of Jordan Cole, Celine Cartier, and Neidhart, but of course, captivation of Lexi James, Angel Fox, and Lizzie Dumas attacked Jordan Cole and took her out, replacing Joanie with her. And so now that'll be that, but still elimination rules. And, what happens here is, of course, we got the heels and babyfaces coming out, and it's a solid match. Like, it's, these women, like, they're getting there, and also I'm trying to push some new women, so, both Roni and Nattie aren't super over yet, but regardless, as far as the match goes, like, it's, a big old wild brawl to start, but within a couple minutes, unfortunately, for the babyfaces, Lizzie hits Twist of Fate, not called that, and then goes up top, hits a wild sloppy moonsault, only Lizzie could do, on Roni Jonah, and gets a basically clean pin on her. And, that's about 3 minutes in, and the babyfaces are at a disadvantage. But the fight continues. Cartier hits some big power moves. Nattie gets to take people down. But eventually, Cartier and Lizzie actually spill out to the outside and fight to the back, and they both get counted out, which is good because now Lizzie Dumas is eliminated, but it's really bad for the babyfaces. Well, for the babyfaces now, Nattie Neidhart is on her own against both Lexi James and Angel Fox, and Nattie gets to look strong here. Like, she fights well. Like, she even actually is able to toss Lizzie to the outside and get Angel Fox into the sharpshooter. But Lizzie comes from behind as she's in the sharpshooter, knocks her down, and basically it's basically 2-on-1 from there. And quickly, with nowhere to go, Lexi takes the win, hitting the Lexi DDT on Nattie and pinning her down, leaving the sole survivors, thus earning the next title shot as Lexi James and Angel Fox. And yeah, so overall, if we look here, Captivation does get the win in about the decent wrestling, but not be cheat, as his overall gets a 59. Not great, but not terrible either. That's sort of what I expected. But yeah, ignore what the they said the elimination ones, because this game is with eliminations. But unfortunately, a big solid one for the heels here, as Cartier gets a 66, Roni gets a 40, Nattie gets a 43, Lizzie Dumas gets a 73, Angel Fox gets a 63, and Lexi James gets a 56. Lexi's gimmick is getting stale, which I'll note to myself to fix. And then post-match, Lexi and Angel celebrate to the boos of the crowd as this gets a 56, as we move on to our next big match here at Starrcade, live from Philadelphia. And next up on the card is the tag team gauntlet involving America's Most Wanted, Heart Legacy, Jindrak, and Simply John Divine, Nova Anemone, Reno and Cash, the Roman Legion, Team Canada, and Red and Chavo. And as set up on the last Nitro review, the first two teams in the ring are the Heart Legacy and the Roman Legionnaires. And unfortunately for the Roman Legionnaires, the Heart Legacy are very upset that basically, that the Roman Legionnaires were able to, basically get involved in a double countout and thus make them start from the top here. And this is a quick, high action way to start the match, as Heavens and Teddy are flying all around, and everybody hitting both men with both moves they can do. Swinger tries to do some cheating tactics to take advantage, but he doesn't really have much to stand on, as this isn't quite a total squash, but basically it's kind of a squash, as the Heart Legacy roll over the Roman Legionnaires in about 6 minutes, with Evans getting the pin here. And this first part of the gauntlet gets a 65, as it takes about 6 minutes. Jack Evans gets an 88, because he's, honestly, Evans is probably the most underpushed guy on my roster, because he could possibly just be a main event guy. Anyway, Teddy Hart gets an 80, Smarter gets a 49, and Roman gets a 43. And just a straight-up quick win for the Heart Legacy as they move on to the next match in the gauntlet. The next team in the gauntlet is Lance Storm and Mike Awesome, and they come out and the match is on immediately with the Heart Legacy, but the Heart Legacy are ready for them. And even though, this is a tough draw for the Heart Legacy after, having up the show, but it's not still early in the match. And quickly, these two fight. Awesome, of course, throws both men around, but they fight back, with some big double team moves, including a double dive to the, on the outside. Storm does a technical stuff to try to take them down, but this is this match is, what's the word I'm looking for here? Open, Awesome gets taken out early, but unfortunately for the Hart Legacy, and even for Awesome and Storm, they're so equally matched that after 10 minutes, the bell rings, and both teams are eliminated after going to time limit draw as part of the Gauntlet. So Hart Legacy draw with Awesome Storm in 10 minutes. The match itself gets an 81, Evan gets an 88, Teddy Hart gets an 82, Mike Awesome gets an 87, and Lance Storm gets an 81. But both teams are eliminated, and then they continue brawling to the back as the crowd cheers. But neither of these two men will be the next in line to get the tag title shot. But let's see who are the next two teams that will actually be in the tag team gauntlet. And first come out, Divine and Jindrak to the boos of the crowd, cockily, noting that they don't have to wrestle. But then out come Alex Wright and Chavo Guerrero Jr. to a big pop from the crowd as the former tag team champions. And the team you could probably argue one of the best teams this year came out to cheers from the crowd, and the match is on. And this is, again, another quick high action match as both teams are, trying to get they know they only have 10 minutes, and, they're, all these teams, except maybe you could argue Roman Legion are, could all be at any time tag team champions. But unfortunately, Jindrak does power moves, but near the end of after about a couple minutes, Divine tries to hit Simply Divine on Chavo Guerrero, but Guerrero blocks it, tags in Alex Wright, and Alex Wright dominates Divine, and Chavo is able to toss Marshall Jindrak to the outside, and Wright hits the big single arm DDT to get the pinfall victory and eliminate Jindrak and Divine in the first match of the Gauntlet for these two teams, as it goes about 7 minutes. And Wright pins Simply Divine. This gets a 71 because it's only 7 minutes. As Chavo gets an 84, Wright gets a 77, Jindrak gets a 74, and Divine gets a 72. So really decent match here as part of the Gauntlet. As Wright and Chavo advance to the second match in the Gauntlet for themselves. And the team they'll be facing happens to be Silver City Rollers of Reno and Cash. And they come out, of course, again, both these two teams know that they have to get to the next round, and what will be the what's we're looking for here. Yeah, there's only a couple teams left after this, so but so Wright and Chavo have a little bit of are a little more fatigued because they are the team that's wrestled so far, but it's only one match so far. And Silver City Rollers, though, are, throw some people around. They do try some double teams. Wright and Chavo fire back. And as the match basically devolves down into a four-way brawl, Cash tries to come off the top with a dive, with a big move onto Chavo. But Chavo gets out of the way. Cash actually nails Reno. Chavo nails Cash with a super kick to knock him out outside the ring. Wright rolls up Reno. 1, 2, 3. A shocking pinfall loss to Silver City Rollers. Quicker than you'd think because of some miscommunication. As they get the pinfall victory, Estes gets a 77 for Wright and Chavo. Chavo gets an 82. Wright gets a 77. Cash gets an 84. Reno gets a 77. As Wright and Chavo win their second match and advance to the next part of the Gauntlet. But not before. Silver City Rollers were very upset, come in and just knock out both Wright and Chavo. They hit a quick powerbomb neckbreaker combination on Chavo. Then they hit a sort of modified total elimination more like a heart attack on Wright, knocking him down, then walking to the back to the boos of the crowd. As the next team comes out, and just by process of elimination, we know which team that is. And that team is going to be America's Most Wanted, who come out and they just roll over Wright and Chavo, they've been two tough matches, and they were just taken out with an attack out of nowhere by the Silver City Rollers. So they just quickly pin Wright and Chavo. Wright and Chavo get a little bit of offense in, but Harris pins Chavo in about a little under 3 minutes with a catatonic to advance into the final match. And this only gets a 70 because, again, it's only a little under 3 minutes. As Chavo gets an 82, Wright gets a 77, Storm gets an 80, and Harris gets a 78. So yeah, just unfortunately for them, for Wright and Chavo, already in 2 matches, AMW were fresh, and they had just been attacked. That means the last team to face off against America's Most Wanted is going to be Jamie Noble and Ebony Sable. And this is an interesting match. Of course, now the time limit is done. There's nothing more for them to do. But also, AMW are basically fresh. Like, they've only had a couple minutes. So, and there's also heel versus heel, which honestly hurts the rating a little bit, but, what can you do? But yeah, what am I saying? Oh yeah, anyway. But Ebony Sable does act as the power base here, but AMW fight back, and this is more of a brawl than the other matches that are more like high impact, like quick tag matches. As Noble tries to sneak in, but Harris and Storm come further de facto baby bases just because they're the slightly more likely, more likable team, as Noble's just been a total prick and Ebony Sable's just been a silent monster. But back and forth match. Both teams, openly cheat, brawl to the outside, some, big dives. But eventually, Ebony Sable actually gets taken out of the match late as he goes for Sable goes for a power bomb, but Storm turns it into a Hurricane Rana and then takes Sable to the outside. And then back in the ring, Noble gets nailed with an 8-second ride by James Storm right in the middle of the ring, and with Chris Harris brawling with Ebony to keep him basically distracted from stopping the pinfall breakup. 8-second ride, 1, 2, 3. America's Most Wanted win the match and win the tag team gauntlet. And yeah, so in about 12 minutes, AMW get the pinfall victory here. As the match itself, because it was heel versus heel, gets a 66, so it loses about 5 minutes, 5 points or so, I think, after I did some math here, due to the heel combination, so not the end of the world. As Storm gets an 83, Harris gets a 78, Ebony Sable gets a 41, and Jamie Noble gets an 86. Let me just look at your sheet. Was there anything else that really hurt it? Lack of storyline, which I probably should have thrown in there. But yeah, that's about it. And post-match, AMW celebrate to a mixed pot from the crowd. As, they don't they took the advantage of Right Chavo getting taken out, but, they did just beat Noble and MD, who the crowd doesn't like either. As this gets a 67 as they celebrate, as we move on to our next match on the card. Well, actually, first, out come the heels, Tank Tolan, Ray LePen, and Keenan Sharp to abuse the crowd. And then out comes Sandman, then out comes Billy Ray, and then comes out the third member of their team, none other than Terry Funk. Decent prop from the crowd, and sort of who'd you guess if you looked at who was on my roster, or who made a sudden appearance last week. So yeah, Terry Funk is a 6th man, and he's ready to fight with the up-and-coming young dogs here for a big 6-man Starrcade street fight. And as a quick note, just in case you didn't see it, that Funk showing up as a quick little segment got a 60. And then we have the actual match here, which is just it's madness, it's chair shots, it's more cane shots, it's brawling, it's table being set up, it's brawling to the top of the ramp, it's ringside barriers getting thrown away, and it's Brother Ray just destroying people all over, Sandman fighting with people, brawling with people, but what becomes obvious is that, yes, Sandman, Funk, and Brother Ray all have the experience here, but Sharp, Tolan, and LePen, they're a little younger, they're a little faster. Sandman tries to go after him with the cane, but they get out of the way. Funk tries the old man moonsault, but actually goes through a table late. Keenan Sharp is able to hit big strikes on Brother Ray's knees, taking him out of action near the end with a sort of modified exploder type suplex into the ringside barrier. Big Ray LePen and Sandman basically brawl, and LePen hitting a big lariat on the outside. And unfortunately for the babyfaces, this proves sometimes youth does win out over experience,
as Ray LePen actually is able to hit after basically what happens is Ray's hit. What happens this is basically the finishing statement. As Sandman gets sent through a table, Brother Ray gets taken out by a double team move from Tank LePen. Then Sharp drills Funk with a quick knee strike. Tank hits him with the Tank Terror, which is just basically a big lariat, I think. And then Ray LePen picks him up, sit down powerbomb. 1, 2, 3. Pinfall victory for the Young Guns here over the the Extreme Dream Team, as LePen, Tolan, and Sharp defeat Sandman, Funk, and Brother Ray in 9:42. As this gets a 67, Brother Ray gets an 83, Funk gets a 38, Sandman gets a 57, Ray LePen gets a 58, Tolan gets a 52, and Key and Sharp gets a 75. So a big win for the start of the Young Wrestlers here, as they get the big win over 3 Extreme Legends, and that sort of closes the door on this. Obviously, like Terry Funk, it was just coming here for a temporary appearance. Sandman isn't that over, and so can sort of go back to jobbing duty, honestly. And I mean, Brother Ray will probably do something a little bit different in the upcoming weeks here on TV. And I mean, we're in a world where the future Adam Rose just pinned Terry Funk on Starrcade. And afterwards, the heel celebrate to the boos of the crowd as this gets a 62. Let's move on to our next match of the evening. And it's Jonathan Toro defending the U.S. Championship against Rey Mysterio. And you can make an argument going into this match that either man is the underdog. Rey Mysterio, of course, can be considered the underdog for the obvious reasons. He's Rey Jr., he's much smaller, he doesn't have the backup of the Broken Legion. But on the other hand, Rey Mysterio is one of the best wrestlers in the world today. He's been successful all over the world, while Jonathan Toro is still a relative newcomer and has only had lots of success this year. But what happens in this match is, well, I mean, if I'm being bluntly here, Rey Jr. does his best to get this guy over as much as he can. As Rey bumps all over the ring for Toro as he hits him with all sort of power moves, power slams, running power bombs, big lariats, brawling, getting thrown to the outside, big boot. Rey Mysterio Jr. does his best babyface comeback, hitting lots of dives, hitting the 619, hitting the West Coast pop. He goes for the springboard hurricanrana, but Toro turns it into a sit-down palm for a near fall. But Toro finally hits the big lariat and then hits his big roaring elbow, but Rey Jr. kicks out at just about 3. Then Toro actually goes for another running boot, but Rey dives out of the way. Roof bump. Rey Jr. hits him with another springboard dive, but Toro rolls to the outside, grabs the U.S. title, avoids a springboard, avoids another big dive from Rey Jr., and then wallops Rey Jr. with the U.S. title, tosses the U.S. title to the outside, and as the referee recovers, goes for the cover. 1, 2, 3, and another huge victory. Jonathan Toro retains the United States champion over Rey Mysterio Jr. at Starrcade. And this match gets a friggin' 88. I honestly put this lower in the card because I didn't know how good it would do. I know they did well before because they have good chemistry, but I wasn't 100% sure about this. But Rey Mysterio just decided to really put this guy over. He did not complain about losing the match at all. But a huge win for Toro, as this gets an 88. I mean, Toro doesn't do badly. He got a 74, and Rey Jr. gets a 90. But a huge win for Jonathan Toro here on Starrcade as he retains the U.S. title. And post-match, Toro celebrates to the boos of the crowd. But regardless, this is a Starrcade moment for him, as at the grand debut of all, he has retained the U.S. title over one of the best wrestlers in the world. And now, moving on to another huge match. As it's the battle of the present versus the future, as AJ Styles, after being part of the Mayhem Tournament final with Eddie Guerrero, has to take him on in a one-on-one match after Eddie attacked him, and basically, wants to prove a point to this young kid that it's still Eddie's time here in WCW, and these two men are ready to go to war right from the start of the match, as they're just going after each other, hitting everybody with bombs right from the start. I imagine, AJ's coming out, and Eddie just comes out to him with, a suicide dive, and immediately just starts the heel beat down right from the start. Suplexes on the ramp, beating him down, throw him into the ringside area and just continuing the beat down, get the crowd behind him, like doing the cocky heel schmirtz stuff, going for the brainbuster early, but AJ fighting out of it, hitting a rolling reverse cradle for a near fall. Then the match, continuing, AJ and Eddy, dives, flying forearms, suplexes, spin kicks, dives, moonsault to a DDT from AJ, but of course Styles going for the Styles Clash, but Eddy hitting him low to take advantage, hitting a sort of like modified Liger Bomb for a near fall, going on the attack, and really trying to get the win like late as he actually hits the Blue Thunder Bomb, but AJ kicks out. AJ fights back, hits the forearm, hits the Fosbury flop dive, and almost gets a pinfall late, but goes for the Styles Clash. But again, Eddy pushes him off and blocks it. Goes back on the attack. Goes up top. Hits the Brainbuster. Goes up top. Frog Splash. AJ barely rolls out of the way. AJ then hits a moonsault onto Eddy, near fall, picks him up, Styles Clash, near fall, almost. Eddy then hits a basically blatant low blow, goes for the brainbuster again, but AJ fights out of it, rolls through, cradle, right into another Styles Clash. 1, 2, 3. AJ Styles defeats the former world champion Eddie Guerrero and one of the best wrestlers in the world. 1, 2, 3, right in the middle of the ring at Starrcade here in Philadelphia. And yes, this match ruled. It got a 98. Eddy and Ray doing their best to put over some people. And this is another case where Eddy offered to put over AJ, so I had to sort of like change some of my booking. I think that's what happened. Sorry, I'm being brain dead. I think was the booking. Now I'm kind of forgetting. Regardless, Eddy was okay putting over AJ here, so even if he didn't offer to put him over, still huge victory here as this gets a 98. Eddy got a 92. AJ gets an 82. AJ is getting better at his gimmick, and yeah, this was friggin' awesome. And post-match, AJ celebrates the biggest one of his career as it gets a 70, and AJ's really on the come up now. And honestly, again, this is some up. And the booking, originally, AJ was not supposed to get this big of a push. Again, to go over some booking, originally what was supposed to happen is AJ was supposed to lose to Booker. AJ would then actually be in the U.S. title match instead of Toro and actually get the win. And he'd be going into the year as the U.S. champion. And Ray would be doing other stuff that I'm not going into, just because it doesn't matter as far as booking. But just Booker wanting to put over AJ, basically said, okay, sure. And there you go. So sometimes the games makes you actually change your decisions here. But yeah, huge win for AJ Styles here at Starrcade. But now we're going from the present and the future to a battle of the past versus some monsters as it's time for our tag title match. And this match is not a wrestling match. It's a fight. It's a battle. It's Sting and Flair, two veterans of the game who know how to do this, going in the ring against a devious mastermind and his monster, doing their best to fight him off. And early on, it seemed like it's actually working, thanks to Sting just walloping Mesias with a baseball bat, Flair openly having knucks. But early on, like I said, it's really looking like it's actually going to work. Sting hits Stinger Splash after Stinger Splash on Mesias, and actually hits the Scorpion Death Drop after about 5 minutes for a near fall, but Mesias kicks out strong at 2. Morningstar, but he does tag in Morningstar, and Morningstar, and Ric Flair do some fun shtick. Ric Flair actually hits a low blow on Morningstar, which really has to use human as he sells that. Chops, punches, goes for the figure 4, but Mesias comes in. And here's the unfortunate thing. The reality is,
Ric Flair's perhaps the GOAT. Sting, one of the best of all time. But they're getting older, and Morningstar's a man on the come up, and Mesias is a monster who was barely stopped by Shawn O'Hare. And this just isn't going to happen from them. Eventually, it's Mesias and Ric Flair as two legal men in the ring, and that's not going to go well for Ric Flair. And it's not go over Ric Flair, as he does his best. He goes in chops, he goes wild with punches with brass knucks, but Mesias basically no-sells it. And in the end, big boot, choke slam, crucifix powerbomb in the middle of the ring, and 1, 2, 3, Morningstar and Mesias retain the tag titles here at Starrcade. Over the tag team champions, over the legendary team of Sting and Flair, as this gets an 80, which is about what we're expected to do. Ric Flair gets a 79, Sting gets a 76, which, like, that's things like, these guys aren't totally gone, like, they're perfect, they do still perfectly upper mid-card performances, but, like, I don't always Sting, Flair, and, like, sort of random upper mid-card stuff. Like, unless I have a reason to use them in the ring, I don't want to overuse them. Looking at you, other companies that have used both these men in bad ways. Anyway, but yeah, Flair gets 79, like I said, Sting gets a 76, Mesias gets a 91, Morningstar gets an 80. The only reason he's that low is I put this as a car crash, so he was limited by chaotic nature. But then after the match, Sting tries to make the save with his bat, but unfortunately, he actually eats the chokeslam of doom as well, and unfortunately, it's a bad day, it's a bad night for the Legends as Mesias and Morningstar walk out, still your tag team champions here in World Championship Wrestling. Yeah, post-match Sting gets a 773 as we move forward, as we're really getting down to the brass tacks and the biggest matches of the evening here at Starrcade. As next up is the biggest women's match in a long, long time. As yes, we've got Joanie Laurer, Tricia, Skye, and Gail Kim facing off in a triple threat match over the women's world title. Of course, Tricia Skye originally called out Joanie Laurer, then Gail Kim beat her in a match to enter this match, but now it's a triple threat match where any of these women can walk out as the women's champion. And as you sort of expect from this type of match, what it's basically is, even now, one-on-one against Gail Kim or Tricia, Joanie still kind of dominates. Like, she dominates slightly less against Trish Stratus as Trish actually turns a powerbomb attempt by her into a hit scissors takedown. Gail Kim hits some big moves on her own, but Laurer throws people around. But eventually slows Laurer down. Is both women going after Joanie with all their impact. You know, chick kick, eat defeat, another chick kick, big suplex by Gail Kim. But that barely slows down Laurer down, and eventually, like, Gail Kim actually tries to then hit a quick roll up on Tricia Skye, leading them to fight, which then allows Joanie to come back in and knock them both down. And it looks like Joanie's going to finish them off once again, as Joanie is going for the powerbomb on Gail Kim, but Tricia Skye goes low on her knees. That allows Gail Kim to fall down on her for a near fall, but Joanie powers out. But then Gail Kim hits a big missile drop kick on Joanie. Tricia hits a big bulldog from the second rope on Joanie. Joanie then, like, Gail Kim rushes Joanie, but Joanie tosses Gail Kim to the outside, but it allows Tricia Skye to come from behind, hit the Sky's the Limit, otherwise known as the Satisfaction. Boom, right in the middle of the ring. 1, 2, 3. Joanie kicks out at basically 3.1, but we have a new women's world champion, and it's Tricia Skye, and in Joanie's dominant reign. And yeah, this match gets a 77. Not quite as good as I thought it was going to be, mainly because a lack of selling, not exactly a huge surprise here. But Tricia Skye defeats Gail Kim and Joanie Laurer in 13 minutes and 22 seconds, as Tricia wins the women's world title. Gail Kim got a 68, Tricia Skye 79, Joanie Laurer gets a 93. And yeah, post-match, Tricia celebrates with the title to a big pop to a 67, as Tricia Skye is now the standard bearer for the women's division. But of course, Joanie Laurer can easily argue she, was basically in a handicap match, and even Gail Kim can say that, if not for a different series of moves, she could have been the one getting the big move to get the pinfall victory, so she might want her own title shot. But we'll have to see what happens in the new home of the women's division, Revolution. Now on, as we're on to our final 5 matches of the evening. The next match is, of course, our interesting heel versus heel match of Booker T versus Jeff Jarrett, or Booker versus Jeff Jarrett. And unfortunately, these guys didn't really click in the ring. So even though, honestly, I'm actually surprised it was as good as it is because they didn't click and because it's heel versus heel. But regardless, the actual match is just a pretty standard, straightforward. They do their spots, including their heel spots, mixed spot from the crowd. Crowds, not uninterested, but they obviously aren't interested, as would be if one of these guys was a babyface, or if they were actually clicking. Jarrett actually goes for the guitar shot late, but Sharmell actually stops him, and it looks like Sharmell's going, as Jeff Jarrett is actually going after Sharmell, because, he doesn't mind hitting women, aka, look at the former Joanie Laurer. Booker T comes from behind, but Booker hits the axe kick, and actually goes for the bookend, but Jeff Jarrett gets his foot on the ropes. And what it actually takes near the end of the match is, as Jeff Jarrett, there's a rough bump late. What happens is Sharmell tosses her scepter in the Booker, who brains Jarrett with it, and boom, right in the middle of the ring, Booker gets the pinfall victory over Jeff Jarrett here. As this match gets an 80. So yeah, that's it. Like I said, so if they didn't click, even though it's heel versus heel, it still might have been 83 or 84, I guess. I don't know. Regardless, yeah, I can see I'm sort of disappointed by the match, so I didn't put that much into the going over it. I mean, again, not the end of the world or anything, but I expected something worse, but I don't know. The fact they didn't click is what hurt it, because I could have put together an interesting heel versus heel match if it would have been a good match, except for the heel versus heel thing. But since it wasn't even since it was a chunky match, even with that, no use to putting a ton of work in. Anyway, regardless, Booker gets the win here. Booker gets a 78, Jarrett gets a 77, 80 overall, and post-match, Booker and Sharmell celebrate to a mixed spot for the crowd as this gets a 68 as we move forward, as we're on to our final 4 matches of the evening. And yes, one more time, it's Kanyon, it's Kidman with the called shot on the line, and these two go after each other once again with all the muster and presence in the world, they've gone a few times before here. Kanyon going for the cannon cutter, but either Kidman pushing him off, using cheating to get the advantage, using his own US Pro Cruiserweight style, planchas, big snap suplexes, middle rope dives, but Kanyon firing back with DDTs, suplexes, big power slams, using his weight advantage to advantage. But it's a lot of stuff that these two guys have thrown each other before, and it's not quite as crisp, it's not quite as good, and there's not quite they're obviously throwing their own stuff, and it's a little more sloppy. As even though these two guys are good, they're great workers, they don't quite have the psychology to pull us off. And so there's some weird dead spots, and the fact they faced each other over a lot, and this wasn't quite as good, means the crowd dies on a little bit. But in the end, Kanyon actually hits the cannon cutter late, but Kidman barely puts his foot on the ropes. Kanyon freaks out, and that gives Kidman just enough of an opening to then go after Kanyon. He goes for the cannon cutter again. Kidman pushes off him, turn it quickly into a kick crusher. Boom. And cleanly pin Kanyon right in the middle of the ring to retain his called shot after nearly 20 minutes to keep, to keep things on his end, and a huge win for here. As unfortunately, I risk it. I didn't realize I knew they'd faced off a couple times. I didn't know whether it was the 4th time or not, but what can you do? I wanted to risk it, so here we are. It looks like this was hurt by about 5 or 6 points by the matchup penalty, unfortunately. Also the lack of psychology. I also risked it and let him call in the ring, even though the rings aren't the best as far as psych, but I wanted to risk it. But anyway, so sometimes you risk stuff, and sometimes it doesn't quite work out. But Kidman still gets a big win here, and a big Starrcade win for Billy Kidman here, as Kanyon got a 92, Kidman gets an 81, and yeah. still not a bad match here. Like, nothing to worry too much about. But a big win here for Kidman. And post-match, the rest of the Triumvirate come out, Storm and Awesome, and they take out Kanyon. Like, super kick from Lance Storm. Then Mike Awesome picks him up, Awesome Bomb from the outside onto the floor. Then Kidman, like, basically steps over him, holding the called shot opportunity in his face, and then smugly walking away as a successful night for the Triumvirate, since Kidman kept his called shot. And now can still use it anytime he wants for a World Championship opportunity. And now we're on to the biggest 3 matches of the night. At this time, we're 2 big men who don't like each other to battle to determine who truly is the baddest man in WCW at the moment. And, I mean, look at any, like, recent era big man versus big man WWE style match, and you get this match. Like, obviously, this is Goldberg before he was too old, and Monty Brown's pretty solid here at this point and getting better. So it's not quite finisher fest completely, but we quickly get there. There's some initial brawling. Goldberg hits a spear early, but as he goes for a jackhammer, Monty Brown gets out of it, and then goes out the ropes and goes for a pounce, but Goldberg is out of the way. So then they sort of face off to a pop, and they start fighting again. Monty Brown then actually hits the pounce, but it's too close to the ropes for near fall. They battle to the outside. Goldberg spears him through the ringside barrier. Against the ringside barrier, suplex on the outside from Goldberg. Goldberg then throws Monty in, but Monty's ready for him and actually attacks him as he gets into the ring, takes advantage. But Goldberg reverses it, goes for the spear, goes for the jackhammer, but Monty Brown fights out of it, hits the pounce, and then doesn't go for the pinfall, waits for Goldberg to get up again, and hits him with a second pounce, and then pins him. 1, 2, 3. Goldberg kicks out at like 3.2. But regardless, at Starrcade, Monty Brown has defeated Bill Goldberg. In an 84, not enough selling shown, and like psychology. I mean, it's Monty Brown and Goldberg in 2004. What do you expect, Gabe? So, I mean, I didn't actually ding him in my description of the match because, yes, not selling and not a ton of psychology, but guess what? The fans did not give a shit. It's these 2 big sons of bitches going after each other, and plus it still tries an exceptional match. But a huge win for Monty Brown as he wins the match. Goldberg, and for the next part, Goldberg basically, rolls out and goes to the outside. As he goes outside, Monty Brown is going outside, when he suddenly starts talking trash to none other than a group of Philadelphia Eagles sitting at ringside, including one Donovan McNabb. There's some, there's some shouting at each other as I'll just put over. Of course, Monty Brown was a member of the Buffalo Bills. Some pushing, and there's a bit of a scuffle before W officials break in. But then we got a fun little Sports Center moment. As also, that was my excuse for at the show putting B-list celeb as one of the things about the show. But yeah, Monty Brown gets a little scuffle with Donovan McNabb after defeating Bill Goldberg. So there we go. He's a big part of the show here as this gets an 80. But now we're on to our last 2 matches of the show. And in the semifinal, in the penultimate match of the evening, 2 former friends turned enemies face off as Laurer takes on Chuck Palumbo. And this is just a fight from the start. This is 2 guys just going to laugh after each other. And, it's just brawling and punches and kicks. Not a lot of fancy moves. Not a lot of work right here. Just 2 guys trying to kick shit out at each other who used to be best friends. Palumbo gets the advantage early, but O'Hare fights back with some power moves, hits the sort of power slam lariat special early, goes for the Widowmaker, but Palumbo fights out of it. Palumbo hits some big suplexes, actually does some work on Palumbo's neck and back to slow him down. Goes for it, hits a big side suplex, then hits a big knee of his own. But O'Hare fights back, actually gets out of the way of a Palumbo rush and sends him to the outside. Raven Rain jumps on O'Hare's back as he's outside, but O'Hare tosses her onto the ringside table as she can take the bump because she's a worker, but allows Palumbo to take advantage. Palumbo sends O'Haire into the ringside steps area, take advantage, goes for the full throttle inside the ring, but O'Haire blocks it. He goes for the Widowmaker, but Palumbo blocks that. They go back to brawling. There's a ref bump, and O'Haire actually hits the Widowmaker, but there's no ref. And then Raven Rain distracts, goes up during apron. O'Haire goes after her. She jumps down. O'Haire turns around right into a massive shot from a chain, thanks to one Chuck Palumbo. O'Haire's down. Palumbo picks him up, full throttle, right in the middle of the ring. 1, 2, 3. Your Chuck Palumbo wins this match here at Starrcade. So yeah, this gets a 92. Acceptable match, 15 minutes. O'Haire gets an 83. Palumbo gets a 90. Again, not a selling show, lack of psychology. Again, crowd would not care. But a huge, huge win for Chuck Palumbo here in the semi-main event of Starrcade, beating his former best friend and a former world champion in Sean O'Haire. And now it's on to the main event. But first, we have, Palumbo and Raven Reign celebrate to the 72. But then first, out comes, even though he's the world champion, he comes out first because of reasons. Honestly, I forgot to reverse him when I put in angles. But anyway, Helms comes out first with the world championship on his shoulder to the boos of the crowd, the very partisan Philly crowd, who I'm sure there's some ECW fans in the crowd chanting, fuck you, Helms, or, something even dirtier, as he comes up to the ring. Massive, massive hero response. But then, at the top of the ring, well, actually probably all throughout, but quickly, at the top of the ring, out comes Pantera, and they start playing Walk Live, as Rob Van Dam makes his way up to the crowd, to a huge pop, as this gets an 84, and then it's time for a main event, as they both get introduced to massive pop from both, and it's time for a main event, Rob Van Dam versus Shane Helms for the WCW World Championship. And as you expect, these guys go the fuck after each other right from the start. Of course, Helms has been attacking RVD. He's very, come up in this wrestling business. RVD is taking his own shots at Helms, and they're ready to brawl. And of course, because this, they just start fighting immediately, brawling, fighting, things building to the outside, Van Dam hitting a wild dive, tables getting set up almost immediately, but Helms getting out of the way, rolling Van Dam back in after taking advantage, hitting the super kick out of nowhere for a quick pinfall attempt, only a couple minutes in, but RVD kicking out at 1. RVD doing his own fighting back, hitting some educated kicks as Helms fires back. Helms trying to slow things down a bit with a suplex and then locking in some holds, but RVD fighting out of them. RVD going on offense right from, continuing to go on offense, hitting another big dive on Helms, throwing Helms into the front row, then hitting his own dive, then slingshotting himself over the ringside barrier onto Helms as they fight into the crowd. Brawl going to the top of the ring apron, to the top of the ramp, them fighting back as RVD gets nailed with a super kick from Helms. Helms throwing RVD back in as they fight, hitting him with a springboard dive, and then going for the Nightmare on Helm Street, but RVD rolling out of the way at the last second. RVD then taking advantage, hitting sort of the fireman's carry, then hitting the Rolling Thunder. But then RVD going up to the top rope for his first 5-star splash of the evening, but Helms getting his knees up. Helms going for the Nightmare on Helm Street and actually hitting it, but it's too close to the ropes as RVD gets his foot on the ropes. Helms actually tries to a big heel pop from at least part of the crowd, goes for actually the triple trump moonsault of one Sabu, but RVD gets out of the way, and then RVD actually nails Helms with a super kick, and then picks him up, hits the backbreaker, a side moonsault for a near fall, Rolling Thunder, then goes up top again, 5-star frog splash, actually drills it, but Helms barely gets his foot on the ropes. RVD tries to talk to the ref. Helms hits him from behind with a low blow, and then and then takes advantage, hits a sort of fisherman's DDT slash the fisherman's buster. Goes for the Nightmare on Helm Street again, but this time he then picks him up for the Vertebreaker, but Helms gets out of it. Cradle for a near fall, no dice. Chair gets back involved. Van Daminator, 5-star Frog Splash, 1, 2, kick out at 2.9. RVD is very, very ready to get this over with. But Helms fires back one more time. Hits the super kick. Goes for the Nightmare on Helm Street. RVD rolls out of the way. Actually hits Helms to the gut. RVD goes for the Vertebreaker, but Helms fights out of it. Helms then goes for a Tiger Driver, but RVD turns into a Frankensteiner. Big then educated some savate kicks by RVD. Sends Helms into the corner. Goes up top. Van Terminator on Helms. Helms is now laid out in the middle of the ring. Goes up top. 1, 2, 3. 5-star Frog Splash. Boom. Pinfall. 3 count. Your new world champion, Rob Van Dam. The whole fucking show. And unfortunately, because the crowd was at an emotional high, this only got a 79. But they averaged out to an 89, so that's how I describe the match. I imagine this is a match where it would get hailed, but basically it would say was sort of a dead crowd or something. But yeah, 79 overall. RVD finally wins the world championship. Helms puts in a hell of a performance in basically his last match as champion, but RVD earns it and post-match celebrates with the title as we finish things out here at Starrcade 2004 in front of 19,000 people. And overall, the show itself gets an 88. Okay, I wanted a little better, and honestly, the main event really disappointed me, but what can you do? But as far as giving some stuff out, let's see here. Oh yeah, first of all, oops, no, I don't. Oh god, who had that really good match? Right, yeah. Rey Mysterio Jr., you are great. Actually, yes. Then Bill Goldberg. And honestly, and then also Sean O'Hare. And I'll be back in just a second with the post-show stuff, because I don't want to actually, what's the word I'm looking for here? I don't want to spoil what the year-end awards are, so I'll be back with once I'm back in Booker Screen in just a moment. All right. There's some interesting decisions with the year-end awards, but I'll go into that, obviously, during the year-end stuff. Anyway, and yeah, I'll be going over people's overness and stuff as part of that, so I'm not going to do the usual post. I do want to check one thing as far as people's there's only 2 things I want to check. Let's see, we got Shane. So yeah, this is definitely a pop cap. The other thing I want to check was Rob. Okay, yeah. I mean, I don't know if that's pop cap or just there's not that many people. Regardless, yeah. Really, I mean, again, I'm disappointed. If again, I'll go over this more specifically, but even if we just look at this year, Starrcade was not one of our best shows, unfortunately. I think if we would have pulled it out with the main event, it would have probably been a 93 or 94. But unfortunately, shit happens. Merch-wise, Bill Goldberg still made $8.5 million for us, so obviously, yeah. But yeah, that's it basically. Nothing huge as far as our popularity or anything like that for you guys, to show you guys. Just let me do one thing real quick. But yeah, I mean, I think this has been a solid year for us. Not the best or not the worst. There's some morale issues I'm gonna have to deal with, just basically because of people being upset they weren't on the show or the booking. Unfortunately, as you sort of expect, Bill Goldberg wasn't greatly happy about jobbing, and neither was Joanie Laurer, but they'll get over it both.
Despite winning at Starrcade, RVD still has morale issues. I think way back from, let's see here, way back from, right, okay, yeah, because the way, again, sometimes I wish there was a way to, in this game, to basically tell the worker, it's a screw job, you're not actually looking weak at all, but, what can you do? But yeah, so again, what will happen again over the next couple days is this will release today, obviously. Wednesday will be most likely the next episode of my New Japan series that I'm starting up. Friday will either be something new or maybe something off the rails. Maybe a one shot, maybe something interesting, Cordoverse or something. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure about it. I'll just have to figure something out. Or I might move the New Japan to Friday, depending on what ideas I get. But anyway, and then next week will be the year end. Remember, as a tradition, year end part 1 will be basically focused on just going over the whole roster. Year 2 will be the rest of the world. Might depend on exactly how much time is left on that. I might do part 1 will be like year end plus WWE, and then part 2 is the rest of the world. Again, all depends on, I'll double check what I did last time. So that'll be a fun thing to do. And then after that, it'll be the beginning of the split. Like the first week of January will be basically the draft on both shows. How it's going to work is there will be, again, just to go over our champions real quick. All of the champions, except for the women in the Cruiserweight title. So the U.S. World Tag Team and TV Champion are going to be on both shows. The Women's World Champion, since the women's division is only on Revolution, will be just on Revolution. And the Cruiserweight Champion, because it's just on Nitro, will just be on Nitro. Everything else will be, on both shows. And then, as I went over during the initial, what's going to happen is there will be several. So basically, it'll be Super Brawl will be a co-branded show. Samboree will be a both Nitro and Revolution show. Mayhem be moved to August will be a both show. Havoc will be a both show. And then there's going to be a new show in November, basically acting as a bridge to Starrcade and then Starrcade. So it's going to be 6 both brands pay-per-views, 3 Nitro only ones, and 3 Revolution only ones. But yeah, that's basically it as far as that goes. Let me see here. Anything else of note to really let you guys know? Not really. I appreciate that after, I've had my breaks, that people have come back and continue to watch the series. If you, again, I don't know if anybody looked at the message if they're waiting this late, but if I did send the emails out to people who finished in the top 3 of the Mayhem tournament to get for the prizes. Obviously, you can wait until I go over the year-end stuff, so everybody in my dev territory, possible signings, everybody in WE, who you want to do as far as that goes, that's all fine. So, and that's not the end of the world on that. Worst case, obviously I want to know for a couple of the prizes, but it's not you don't need to do immediately or anything. But yeah. Beyond that, as usual, if you enjoyed this, go ahead and like, comment below what you're enjoying and not enjoying, and subscribe to this channel for some TEW 2020 content, including this and my New Japan series, and possibly some other fun stuff. But that is it for now. Talk to you later, and adios. Have a good one.